Should all police movies and police TV series be shut down? Some seem to think so. Others take it even further and even want to ban any Lego playset featuring the police. Is that par for the course in this day and age, or is this infringing a little bit too far into our entertainment? In this editorial, I will look into this sudden escalation, explore the view that police movies and TV series should be banned, and while we're on that topic, propose where I think police procedurals should go next. Well, you all know how this started, and that's beyond the scope of this channel, which is devoted to genre entertainment. But it quickly escalated from there into our genre entertainment. So then we kind of have to comment on it. Now, it's not really my place to comment on the internal political strifes within the US, but it is connected to the demands of shutting down police movies and TV series. So I'm just gonna call it as I see it as an outside observer. So, after the triggering incident, first law enforcement as an institution was vilified. And from there came the calls to defund, which is the first step to what appears to be the larger goal of shutting down law enforcement altogether. Even some prominent celebrities with several genre properties under their belt, that just so happen to have private security watching their backs and their property, joined in on the calls to defund. That any state actually shutting down their police force quickly would be on their way towards becoming failed states, not able to protect the life and property of its citizens who can't afford private security is a price they are very happy for you to pay. But some celebrities joining the calls of politicians and activists in defunding the police right now isn't enough. Future recruitment to the police must also be stopped. Meaning, any positive and uplifting portrayals of law enforcement likewise must be stopped. To that end, the Washington Post published a timely article aimed squarely at Hollywood, demanding they shut down all police movies and TV shows. The article, published June 4th, is titled, "Shut Down All Police Movies and TV Shows, Now." This is not a polite suggestion. It is not framed as an idea. This is an imperative, a demand. It is framed as an order to Hollywood. The article reads, "Like many other industries, entertainment companies have issued statements of support for the protests against racism and police brutality now filling America's streets. But there's something Hollywood can do to put its money where its social media posts are. Immediately halt production on cop shows and movies and rethink the stories it tells about policing in America. For a century, Hollywood has been collaborating with police departments, telling stories that whitewash police shootings." Notice the wording here. That's the very first thing they brought up. Whitewashing police shootings. That reveals the underlying belief upon which this entire article is based. The police are all bad. And movies and TV series about police are but a means to the end of whitewashing their shootings. Also notice the use of color, the pairings of the words white, police, and shooting, and the implications that follow from that. I can tell right away that this article is going to be geared towards emotions, because there aren't any statistics that will back its assertions up. Now that we're wise to that, let's continue. For a century, Hollywood has been collaborating with police departments, telling stories that whitewash police shootings and valorizing an action hero style of policing over the harder, less dramatic work of building relationships with the communities cops are meant to serve and protect. There's a reason for that beyond the reactionary streak hiding below the industry's surface liberalism. Purely from a dramatic perspective, crime makes a story seem consequential, investigating crime generates action, and solving crime provides for a morally and emotionally satisfying conclusion. The result is an addiction to stories that portray police departments as more effective than they actually are, crime as more prevalent than it actually is, and police use of force as consistently justified. There are always gaps between reality and fiction, but given what policing in America has too often become, Hollywood's version of it looks less like fantasy and more like complicity. Again, notice the wording. Hollywood is complicit in covering up for the police, while crime isn't that prevalent. By contrast, the victims of crime so far haven't been mentioned by as much as a word. Let's see if that continues, for the article goes on. There's no question that it would be costly for networks and studios to walk away from the police genre entirely. Canceling Dick Wolf's Chicago franchise of shows would wipe out an entire night of NBC's primetime programming. Dropping Law & Order Special Victims Unit and a planned spin-off would cut even further into the lineup. But the gap between what some companies and executives have promised this week and what they have done in the past cannot be ignored. As reality television critic Andy Denhart points out, at Viacom CBS, cable networks chief Chris McCarthy pledged to leverage all of our platforms to show our allyship. One of those platforms also airs Cops, a decades-old reality show with a troubled history of participating in police censorship and peddling fear of black and brown criminals. If McCarthy means what he says, canceling Cops would be a start. Note, they singled out the person who has the power to cancel Cops. The article goes out to Hollywood as a whole, but they mention specific networks that will suffer but were told to cancel their lineup anyway, and they singled out the individual who can cancel Cops. That's some heavy campaign journalism right there. And we're just getting started, for the article continues. But simply cancelling cop shows and movies would be easier than uprooting the assumptions at the heart of the problem. Say writers made a commitment not to exaggerate the performance of police. Audiences would have to be retrained to watch, for example, a version of Special Victims Unit where the characters cleared only 33.4% of rape cases. Or to accept that in almost 40% of murders and manslaughters, no suspect is arrested. If storytelling focused on less dramatic but more common crimes such as burglary and motor vehicle theft, the stakes would shrink, along with the case clearance rate. Take note of that. The stakes, according to the Washington Post, go down with rape and burglary. The victims of that evidently don't matter. The article continues. In addition to revealing the world as it is, art has the power to show us the world as it can be. There comes the activism. But when reform doesn't seem like a real possibility, even the modest optimism risks souring into mockery. The closest thing to a reformist police show right now is Brooklyn Nine-Nine, a sitcom that alternates explorations of the police and identity politics of the New York Police Department with fantastic gags and one-liners. I've never seen it, so I can't comment on it, but even that is criticized for prioritizing the police perspectives over anyone else's. The article does suggest that one way forward may be to emphasize the dialogues and sometimes fierce struggles that take place within police departments. Here, the article highlights The Shield as a good example, which by the way is one of the most badass series ever made in my opinion, before concluding that change takes too long, and if the entertainment industry truly believes change can no longer wait, it should start with its own storytelling. So, what to make of all of this? First of all, I think it's downright scary that a major mainstream news outlet would go to the step of demanding all police movies and TV series be cancelled, and in the title and first part of the article, that's exactly what they did. I don't think it's the Washington Post's place to call on named networks to cancel their lineup, or to single out an individual and demand he cancel one specific show. And likewise, I don't think Hollywood should be beholden to portray anything as the Washington Post wants it to be. To invert it, if someone were to tell the Washington Post what kind of stories they could and couldn't cover, and how to cover them, I somehow doubt they would take that very well. Yet they have no qualms about telling Hollywood what they should be doing. That is forcing a narrative in a medium outside of their own. That is unbecoming of a representative of what should be the free and independent press to do. As such, I hope Hollywood won't listen, although they probably will, in more and less subtle ways. But the Washington Post did bring up one good point. The article read, "Say writers made a commitment not to exaggerate the performance of police. Audiences would have to be retrained to watch, for example, a version of Special Victims Unit where the characters cleared only 33.4% of rape cases, or to accept that in almost 40% of murders and manslaughters, no suspect is arrested. If storytelling focused on less dramatic but more common crimes such as burglary and motor vehicle theft, the stakes would shrink, along with the case clearance rate." I disagree that stakes would shrink. On the contrary, I think the stakes would massively increase because a series like that would have the potential to show the true cost of crime to the victims, to the ones doing it, to society at large. Have actual victims consult, have police consult, have criminals consult, and show the bleak reality as it is. That would not only be great, albeit depressing television, it would highlight where to reform, where to increase funding, and it would be based in reality as it is, not what an activist newspaper with an overt political agenda thinks reality should be. Let me know your thoughts on all of this in the comments.